and welcome. Really excited today to be speaking with you about building a world-class recognition and reward program. So we have been hearing a lot from folks that their focus during the last year has increasingly been on to show appreciation, whether that's because your workforce is dispersed, whether your workforce is fatigued, whether you're having staffing challenges and you're really focused on retention, that recognition is often the focus. So for today, despite the fact that our platform does lots of things to support those challenges, we are going to be focused on employee recognition and reward and how we're going to give examples of things that our clients have done within our platform, but I'm also going to keep an eye on things that you can do in a more homegrown environment in the event that you need something right away and you need something done now. So my name is Alex Powell. I'm Reward Gateway's Director of Client Culture and Engagement. And I'm often working between the tech and between employees and managers at our clients to make sure that they're actually getting the appreciation out into the environment, that their managers are using our technology in ways that are really beneficial, that the way that they're recognizing is just as effective as the tools that they're using. So I spent a lot of time, in fact, it's been about 15 years that I have been doing presentations and talking to people about recognition. Before that, I like to think I had experience with it because I was giving it in my life and getting it as well. So today I'm standing in for a larger team of folks here at Reward Gateway, our implementation team and our client success team that would normally take clients through the building and design. They would guide them through this process. I'm going to give you a little shorter version of that. They do a pretty great job. They've got an NPS of about 88, but I'm going to be asking for your feedback at the end of this, so maybe they and I can compare numbers at the end. To help you out, because we only do have, about 50 minutes today, we're going to be providing you a much more thorough workbook that you can work your way through, maybe even invite people to join you to work your way through after today's session. I've got a version of it that I've printed out here, but if you wanted to get it, you've been getting it in emails in preparation for today. But if you're sliding in to this webinar like it's second base, you can get it right now by going to rg.co/workbook. Now, throughout my time today, you'll see little numbers in the corner of some of my slides that will let you know this is captured already in the workbook as a page. So if you're furiously writing down notes on something, chances are it's in the workbook for you. So I'm going to do my best to take you through the themes. My goal is that after, you're not going to fill up this workbook throughout our time. We wouldn't have time for that, but you'll have a really solid basis and some really great ideas about what real HR leaders are doing to support recognition in their organizations. All of this will help support our mission of making the world a better place to work. So the way we're going to go through it is, first, we're going to do what we often do, and that's start with the why of recognition, talk a little bit about program branding. We're going to talk about developing a reward and recognition framework. I'm going to give you some examples, show you images, talk about the different levels of recognition that our clients find to be successful, everything from the simple and comprehensive to things that are just run by managers, to more infrequent rewards and infrequent nominations. And then finally, we're going to talk a little bit about keeping the flame alive. It's all well and good to design something, but if you put your heart and your soul into designing it and people don't use it, that is worse than doing nothing. So we want to make sure you have some of our decades of experience in how you actually get people to get engaged and then stay engaged with the program you design. So to kick things off, I want to talk about what we often refer to as our 6 pillars of recognition success. I'm going to share these with you, and as I go through them, these are going to be things I'm going to want you to consider when you're prioritizing which elements of recognition maybe you start with after today, which ones you zhuzh up a little bit that maybe you're already offering. As I've said before, if you look in that lower left or lower right-hand corner, this is on page 14 of your workbook. So you don't need to jot these down, that's available for you. You can follow along at home. So the first one is individual, right? That's thinking about, is the individual able to be recognized? Is this something where it's going to feel like it's about them? Or are you only at the level where you're recognizing everybody at a holiday? Everybody gets $25 at the end of the year, for example. or is it individual? So one pillar of success is that the recognition feels individual to people. The second pillar of success is it visible to others? This is a huge one. If managers are recognizing individually one-on-one and others aren't aware of it, then you're never going to get over that hump of people feeling that others aren't being appreciated. So let's say I get recognized once a month for something great I've done. If in between those times I'm able to see other people's recognition, it's going to feel like I'm immersed in a culture of recognition, not just occasionally getting recognized. So visibility is huge. It helps us to learn from each other, communicate between groups, and also really feel like the culture of recognition is there. The third one is empowering. Is your program one where managers feel empowered to use it? Is it simple enough that they don't need to sit through a 3-hour course in order to feel comfortable? Is it simple enough where they can pick up their phones and just get going? Do they want to, and do they feel empowered to participate in it? And specifically for this, when we are thinking about managers, it can really be the lifeblood of the program. Fourth, we have consistent. Is it consistent with your values, with the other initiatives you're talking about? Is it consistently being used over time? Is it consistently being used between departments? Or is your IT department left in the cold while your sales department gets all the press? The fifth one, timely and authentic, right? If I'm going to get recognized for a project, am I getting recognized as that project wraps up or at the end of the year? If I get recognized at the end of the year, it's probably not even going to feel authentic to me. Did you really care enough about it to give me credit for it at the time? And then the last of the 6 is accessible and fair. Can anyone use it at any time to provide that recognition? And therefore, is it going to feel equitable? It's not just people that have desks closest to the manager. It's not just people that have regular meetings with senior leadership that get noticed. So look at these 6, and to kick things off, before we get more into building and creating, I'm going to ask you to fill out a poll, and I want you to think about which of these 6 do you most need to improve, that you can most be thinking about over the course of our time today. So let's give it a second, and then we'll have a poll. Which of the pillars most needs improvement? Okay, now, full disclosure, I have 5 options here. You can click, is it recognition? You most need to focus on recognition feeling individual, recognition that's visible to everybody, recognition that leaders are actually empowered to use, recognition that's consistent, or is it a combination of recognition that is both timely and accessible, so it's being used in the moment as it needs to happen? So we've got about half of you that had a chance to click. This is probably a tough choice. All right, there's definitely some favorites. Give yourself another minute. Make sure your vote gets counted. I'm really curious. I love this feedback from people to see where they're focused on. Okay, let's share these results so everybody can see what it is we heard from you. All right, so we've got 58% of people said recognition that is consistent between groups over time is where you need the most improvement. Oh, such a great goal to be focused on, though. Then we've got recognition that feels individual, recognition that's timely and accessible, and some folks also visibility that leaders are empowered to use. Absolutely. So be thinking about that over the rest of our time together, especially if you're looking at consistency. That can be something you can really build in as your prioritization tool. Like, which of these things we're talking about will increase the consistency of recognition between groups? That might be how you decide, of all the ideas we talk about, which ones you're actually going to focus on. Okay, so thanks so much for your contributions there. Let's move forward and see what's next. So the first module, this appears in your workbook. I'm going to take you through it pretty quickly, though, is talking about measuring the R&R pulse in your organization. I love talking about measurement, thinking about ways you can get feedback, and there's a couple of reasons why. These here in the workbook on page 5 are some examples of kinds of questions you could ask people. The reason we recommend this is that A, we're hearing in our research that people are wanting their voices to be heard right now. We've gone through a period of feeling pretty isolated, feeling like things are a little bit out of our control. The opportunity to speak up, have your voice heard, and impact change is really exciting to people right now. It's what they're looking for to wake them up and get them out of some of our COVID slump. Asking these questions, getting some feedback on what people want, can really engage them with the process. The second thing, B, is that then when you're advocating for the changes you want to make, you've got some fabulous data behind you. I was working with one of our clients, and they said, by the time I had this data and I presented it to senior leadership, they said to me, I have no choice but to go along with what you said. Our people are asking for it. We need to do it. It's not just your personal preference. You've got a lot of fabulous data to back things up. And if you're concerned about consistency, maybe your data is that these people feel awesome, but these people really want more. So we need to do something more formal. So ask for the feedback. You can use it to really influence perspectives around the organization. And then I'm going to talk throughout our hour together. Continuing to check in with people is a great way to make sure that it doesn't feel like it's all on your shoulders, that you're shifting and being agile, and that eventually what you roll out is exactly what they wanted. Well, in addition to the why that you can get from people, we always have recognition stats to share. So here's this one. 63% of employees would rather work for a company that has a culture where people are praised and thanked regularly than for a company that pays 10% more. So if you're concerned about retention, take a picture of this and share it out with your organization. People are really looking for this. Is my work going to matter? If that's the case, maybe there's another job over there that feels like it's going to pay me a little more. But if I have evidence that I'm going to be appreciated, that's more likely to be chosen. And we know that you're having these conversations. 42% of employees surveyed said they're currently looking or will be looking for an employer in this year. 66% of HR leaders say their company is currently hiring. So we know retention is very much a focus right now. And speaking of that, 78% of people who are looking for a job said they would stay for more recognition and reward. So it's a really good use of all of our times today to be thinking about this. Okay, so module 1 is really about getting a pulse, right? Maybe you've already got that data, but hopefully now you've got some ideas about different questions you can ask to get some backup for the program that you design. The second module of this workbook, right, it starts on page 15. I'm moving quick, right? We're not going to have time to fill out everything, but you can get to it afterwards. Is about building an unforgettable R&R brand that people will love. Now, I'm a logistical person. I want to get to building. I want to start designing things. I want to get into the weeds about how much and who and when. But don't skip this really fun step of making sure the program speaks to people from a design perspective. Tim Cook said, make products that you want to use. And that's very important when it comes to recognition. This should feel related to your culture. It should feel fun and engaging. It shouldn't be similar to the site they use to download documents. It should be more about them and the humanity of your business. So I want to share with you some examples. These are also in your workbook of different names of programs that our in-house design team have worked with clients on that support them with having a really charming, fun program. So we've got in here, ours is right there in the center. We want to brag about ourselves. Boom for RG people. Our platform, we call it Boom. That's where you go to get the information, right? The information drops, the recognition drops. Boom, it's all right there for you. But we've got the daily docket, right? From a legal perspective, that's something that's charming and customized. And as my UK friends would say, it's bespoke for their organization. We've got Boombox, right? Where this is where you're going to go. This is probably more for my Gen X peoples, right? With the Boombox, I had one of those. Some of you that might be historical, for me, that's my childhood. But you've got the Boombox where you go out and you hear all of the information that's out there. Then there's things like Spotlight, right? That works for so many different organizations. Credit where credit is due. Are you in the Spotlight? Have you checked out the Spotlight? Put that into the Spotlight. One of our clients whose name begins with UNI has the Universe as their program. A quirkier one down in the lower right, the Coop. It's a chicken theme. There are chickens and eggs in all of their e-cards. So get creative, have fun. If this isn't your forte, bring other people in and ask them to vote on the name, come up with different names. But we have seen that this is a great way to get yourself thinking about things. So take a moment now and jot down, are there any here that you think you could adapt? Maybe you already have a great recognition program name and you just need to zhuzh it up. But be thinking about, what can we call it? And as always, you can always go to other people and ask for their perspective. I'm sure they'd love to give it. But don't skip this step. Before we move off of design, I want to share with you some of the recognition card topics and designs that would be the next stage of developing your design. Maybe you're looking at, like, what's the title of it going to be? What are we going to call it? How are we going to use it in a sentence is an important one. But then what are the supplemental resources that are going to go along with it? What are some of the topics people can recognize for, and what is it going to look for? So this can be, as I said, for our software, you can see over to the right, our online recognition is set up so that you've got the e-card. This is a just to say greeting. It's focused on the story. It's got interaction and the social aspect. So people talk about visibility, right? This is individualized. This is visible. People can comment on it, but not everybody is in a place where they're ready for this online system. If you've got a distributed workforce, you're probably clamoring for it, but you can also do these as paper cards. We have some clients that use our on-the-spot recognition to hand things out in warehouses or retail stores so that it's happening in real life as well. So this is where you can think about, what do those look like? What are the topics and what are the designs? There's three main categories that you can be considering for what will people recognize each other for. And this is more in that peer-to-peer level, which we're going to talk about in a moment. The first one is the greetings, right? Sometimes we've talked a lot about value-based recognition of late, but we also want to make sure we have an opportunity to greet each other as people, especially if you're not in the office as you were before. Greetings like, hey, you make work from home a better place to work. Something topical, but also, really about a human connection. Maybe it's welcome to the team, one of my favorites. I've been talking to people who are challenged with the COVID generation of people that have been onboarded during this time. Do people even know they're there? Have people had the opportunity to get to know them if they had to skip out on the welcome lunch a year and a half ago? So these e-cards and greetings for welcome to the team can be really effective. Happy New Year, happy Memorial Day, all of these things can be greetings that you can build in and have people recognize each other for. The second category to consider when it comes to building out fresh, fun recognition, effective recognition, are the goals you want to hit. So this is really helpful if you're concerned about empowering managers to make use of your program. What are the things they're already focused on? Build it in, right? Yes, you're going to want to talk about values in just a moment, but maybe rather than thinking about general teamwork, they want to think about people who are picking up shifts, as this second card indicates. Is that a more direct line to your manager's hearts? So make it explicit, right? People who saved revenue, people who picked up a shift, especially in healthcare and retail right now with staffing. You want to make it more formalized. Reporting an incident or a hazard, a near miss, people that are doing the things you want them to do, you can build that really explicitly in. In fact, that shift pickup one is in relation to a reward. So managers can give people, not just say, gosh, you're doing such a great job, thank you, as they have been for 2 years, but they can start to attach a reward to it to really elevate it. Now, of course, the third thing that you may want to consider, and we always say you should include in your recognition, are your values. So maybe it's not about picking up a shift. Maybe it is a more general teamwork example that I want to highlight. Because I'm not just saying general thank you, but I'm highlighting teamwork, I'm connecting the story that someone did, something they did on Tuesday, to this higher purpose of values. It promotes your values. It makes it obvious that they're already happening. It really brings in that higher purpose, which so many people are looking for, especially now. So these are examples of our clients have used for teamwork, for safety value, for creativity value. So hopefully you've got some ideas about what would you build in? What would you recognize for? right? What are the greetings that would stand out to you? Maybe my friends in Boston, they've got Patriots Day that they celebrate. Maybe you want to call out the fact if you're in a particular area of the world or the U.S. that has a special holiday or has a large population of folks from a certain country that you want to call out the holiday that's celebrated there. So think that through, and this might be another opportunity to chat with a group of people about it. Okay. So we've talked about the why, making sure you're getting feedback from people, making sure you're thinking about the branding and the design. Hopefully you've gotten some great ideas. If you pick an idea like the coop, like our clients did, that's about chickens and eggs, right? The design is really, your work is cut out for you. But think about what works for your organization, obviously. Now we get to module 3. This is the part where I sometimes want to start. And that's how often are we recognizing? What does it look like? What is our logistical recognition program going to be all about? And here I'm going to talk you through the recognition pyramid. This is on page 12 of the workbook if you want to follow along and take notes. But the other thing I'll point out to you is we also have item 1.6 in the workbook is a blank pyramid that I'm going to have you start to build out throughout our time today. So as I go through this, if you want to just start jotting down what you already have on 1.6 of the workbook, how would you build out your pyramid? You can start jotting down for yourself, what do we have, and then where do we want to be? That's kind of the section we're on right now. So let me talk you through what these things really mean, though. So first of all, this is a pyramid because the recognition at the bottom is happening more consistently. It's out there in the environment. It's more frequent. It's likely to be a little bit less impactful too, because if it's happening on a daily basis, it's your day-to-day recognition, but it's more frequent. Everyone has hands on it. Everyone's included in it. It's the peer-to-peer, values-based, results-based e-cards. Anyone can do it at any time. And you already got to see some examples of designs, as well as what it might look like in a feed or on a card that someone's handing out. Peer-to-peer, really important. Next, we have milestone awards. This could be birthdays, anniversaries, your length of service. That could also be a layer of the pyramid you have. For a lot of us, it's what we maybe started thinking recognition was in a corporate environment, or when is your anniversary? What kinds of, are you getting a clock? What are you getting? But those milestone awards are another layer. Maybe you've got them. For some people at this point, they're feeling like they need to adjust them. They're feeling like maybe they need to take some budget from that to put it into more day-to-day recognition. But that's one layer of the pyramid. The next one is something we call peer-to-peer nominations. And this starts to elevate that activity as we start to move up from less frequent and more impactful. The peer-to-peer nominations would be for more above and beyond actions. So this would be maybe, traditionally it might be employee of the month, but that's a pretty vague topic. But maybe we have caregiver of the month or safety moment of the month, someone who really stands out amongst the rest of the organization. You can nominate them to receive this award. There might be multiple nominations and one person that wins. So that's that next level up. Again, it doesn't necessarily need to include monetary reward at this point, but we're getting more into that area of it. You can have monetary rewards at all levels of the pyramid. You can have monetary rewards at none of the levels of the pyramid, but peer-to-peer nomination, we start to get into the area where we're starting to really elevate actions. Speaking of monetary, the next level up is manager-led monetary recognition. We've been hearing a lot of buzz about this in the last few months. People who maybe they feel like they've got a base of recognition, but they want to make sure it feels authentic to people. They want to make sure that the actions feel elevated and important, are looking for ways to make sure that rewards are being used really thoughtfully. And I'm going to talk more about that later. Maybe you have that. Maybe that's what you want to focus on next. And then up at the top, we've got the game changers. Less frequent, right at the top of the pyramid, but often really impactful. This could be the employee of the year. Maybe you have an annual award for every value, your annual safety advocate, your annual teamwork advocate. We have something we call our Dream Maker Awards, where someone who's done something to support our value of thinking global, if they win this award, they get an opportunity to go work out of, or they did prior to COVID and hopefully will again soon, work out of any of our offices around the world, Sydney, London, Plovdiv in Bulgaria. So these are the really big deal, lots of people talking about them kind of awards. They're fun to design, but for heaven's sake, you don't want to skip the ones that happen on a daily basis either. So I just took you through a lot of different ideas. Let me give you a specific example, and then what I'd like to do is I'm going to have you start really writing down and thinking about the ones you already have. So there's all these different layers, right? It can sound kind of complicated and layered. Here's what one of our clients did. They have the hub, and they have 3 layers. They didn't have these before they started working with us, but this is what they picked out and started working on. The lower level, they've got the peer-to-peer values-based e-cards. It's non-monetary. Anyone can send it to anyone else at any time. It's visible, they can comment on it, and it's story-based, so they're telling the story of what the person did, not just like a stamp. It's more about the actions than it is, and the value than it is just a thank you. Then their next level up is the manager-led performance-based rewards. They actually took some budget from their length of service awards that wasn't being as appreciated, and they built it in so managers have a budget and they give out an employee appreciation award, and they've got a different level of reward they can give based on the action. It can be a $10 reward or a $25 reward or a $50 reward, but they've got a layer in there where managers can give out rewards. And then the layer at the top are those long service awards. They happen less frequently. Gosh, I hope you're getting recognized more than once a year. They've also reduced the how long it takes before you get your anniversary. So if in the past you needed to wait for year 5, that's not going to cut it anymore. Most people don't last in an organization for 5 years. So they're giving out 1 year, 3 year. So that's an example of how you build out a pyramid. So now here I said on page 13, 1.6, how would you layer out your recognition pyramid? I want to make sure you've given an opportunity to write in what you've already got. Maybe you need to zhuzh it a little bit, but what layers do you already have handled in your organization? If the answer is none of them are consistent, then you're starting kind of with a clean slate. Let's think about it like that. You're starting and anything could happen. So to give me some insight as to where you are, this is going to be our second poll. What I'd love you to do next is I'd love you to share with me which of these layers do you already have in some form or function in your organization? What levels of recognition do you already have? You're going to be able to pick multiple answers for this one. Maybe you've got peer-to-peer already, anyone, anytime, anywhere. Maybe you even have peer-to-peer nominations for those above and beyond. Maybe you've got the safety award or the customer service representative of the month, things where people can elevate it up to the next level. You might have employee-led rewards. I didn't talk about that specifically, but we are hearing from people that have built in not just manager-led rewards, but employee-led rewards. Maybe you've got the manager-led, and maybe you've got the service or the milestone awards. I had 5 options. If you've got some game changers, awesome. But these are really where we're going to focus on in our workbook and in our workshop today. So I wanted to give you folks a chance to think about which do you already have handled? Which ones are already taking place? Okay, there's less people voting on this one. I think because there's some people who the answer is none of the above. All right, but let's see where we stand. Where do people often already have these things handled? Okay, so if we look at our results, we have almost 70% of you listening have your service or milestone awards. That's great. You've got that handled. We're going to talk about some ways to make sure they're really effective, but you've got those things handled. Not surprising in a U.S. market that that's something we were focused on. 50% have manager-led rewards. That's awesome. You've got some budget there. 52% of you have the peer-to-peer, anyone, anytime, anywhere. Fabulous. But we're going to also think about some ways to make it consistent. And for the other 50% of you, I don't want to say I have a favorite level, but the peer-to-peer recognition is so important for so many different reasons. And 10% of you have employee-led rewards. That's fabulous. It's so nice. People really do appreciate having a little budget. that they can put forth and share with others. Okay, thanks so much for providing us that insight. So you have a place that you're starting. Now let's start thinking about what you might want to adjust or add. I showed you a lot of examples of the peer-to-peer recognition cards, different designs, different ideas for the greetings, for the values, for the goals that you can have. But I want to make sure that the 50% of you that don't have this yet are really thinking about the value of it. Peer-to-peer recognition, first and foremost, it creates a ripple effect. People are 3 times more likely to recognize someone else when they themselves have been recognized. And we don't want that whole pressure to be just on the manager. We want to make sure that if I'm working on a project with one of my colleagues, that they can recognize me and I can recognize them, even if a manager isn't in the room. And we know that in a lot of cases, that's more motivating to people than maybe a more obligatory manager reward. 77% of people have a burst of productivity after they've been recognized, so we want it to happen as frequently as it can. We want to build company-wide confidence and have everybody seeing the opportunities and the appreciation and the great work that's happening. It also makes everyone responsible for the company culture. So managers are pretty overloaded in most days, and I've been hearing a lot of folks share their concerns about that now. So we don't want all of the pressure to be just on them. It also is great for teaching people about your values, examples of that peer-to-peer, like what does someone in my job do on, maybe not an average day, but on a day when I'm really firing on all cylinders, what does that look like? In fact, we've got people who are using the peer-to-peer recognition as a retention strategy or as a recruiting strategy by sharing out what colleagues are recognizing each other for to provide a clearer image of what the actual job entails. And then lastly, it promotes transparency, connection, and collaboration. We often hear from folks that when things fall down, it's because departments aren't communicating. If I know what people are recognized for across the organization in that peer-to-peer setting, I'm more likely to have some context for maybe why this week they're less likely to get back to me. Maybe, they're recovering from a flood in our facility, and so I can be patient with them, or I'll learn more about what is challenging for them in their job, so I'll have some patience. So I don't want to say I have a favorite level, but as you can tell, I'm pretty partial to the peer-to-peer recognition. So be thinking about, do you need to have some values? Do you need to have it? How would you run it, right? We love the online environment, especially for distributed workforces, but is there something that you can adapt? Maybe managers are doing it now, but you can give everybody access to it. It's something for you to think about. I want to give you some examples of what we've seen people do next for those nomination programs. What works here? In your workbook, you're going to see 3.2 and 3.3 of the workbook is going to give you a real grid you can fill out. Again, to the extent we won't necessarily have time for on today's workshop, but maybe you want to talk to your leaders. Maybe you want to get together as a senior leadership group and think it through. Types of nomination programs. Is it going to be always on? Like anyone can recognize people for it at any time? Like maybe it's caregiver of the month and it happens from January 1 to December 31st, people can be nominated? Or is there a particular time? Like if you're an accounting firm, maybe you want to do like utilization in our busy time. And that's a time when you implement it. So is it always on or at a particular time of year? Is it time bound? Is it going to be, for a quarter? Is it going to be for a month? Is it an annual one? How is it? When are you taking a break and actually rewarding people for it or recognizing people for it? And then is it for everyone in the organization or a particular segment? Maybe you've got, if you have an engineering team like ours, maybe you want to have like the most bugs squashed or, bug squasher award that people can nominate their colleagues for, and that would be specific to that group. So is it always on? Is there a particular time of year that's very specific for your organization that people would get behind? How often should this be given out? And then is it for everyone or for a particular segment of your organization? Something to think about. Another thing that the workbook is going to contain is also a different way of thinking about it from a participant perspective. Who's eligible? Who needs to approve it? And then is it for individuals or is it for a group? So that's another way of thinking things through. Do you want to give nominations for different levels of the organization? The frontline employee that did the most for safety, the supervisor that did the most for safety, and the overall employee that did the most for safety, something along those lines. Here's a couple examples of nomination programs. First of all, we have over to the left, the Superhero Caregiver Award. This is something that one of our clients uses. As you can see, it's for people that are in those caregiving roles. Up at the top, they're indicating that this person is eligible. They put in the name, they select the Superhero Caregiver Award, and then they explain the reason. That's sent up, and there is an approval process. So in this case, because it's running through the online system, somebody gets an email, they go in and they read them, and when it's time to give out the award, they've got all the different nominations. And then they can award it, and because it's online, it can be posted out to the social wall where people can comment and react. So of course you're going to want to have like caregiver as a value where people can get recognized all the time, but this is going to elevate things a little bit, generate some excitement, provide you an opportunity to maybe give out some fun stuff, or just maybe elevate their name with the public recognition. This one over to the right is actually our nomination program. It's the UROC. So I can do this for my colleagues, and I would select which of our values they were exemplifying in what they did, and I would type in the story behind it as well. So some examples of nomination programs. So write down if you've got some ideas there, or if there's somebody you need to talk to see what nomination programs you might want. Okay, manager-led recognition with reward. This is the one. So when our implementation team and our client success team partner with our clients that are rolling things out, this is the one where we often see them get stuck, right? There's a lot of decisions here. So this is where this workbook will hopefully really help you take things to the next level. It's important because there's so many statistics about the value of a manager to someone's tenure and loyalty to your organization. People leave bad managers. 75% of workers who voluntarily left, did so because of their bosses and not the position. What's the environment like? Do I feel recognized? Is this person showing appreciation for me? So if they have to be the ones that maybe give the bad news sometimes, we also want to make sure managers have the opportunity to give good news, and that they're empowered to do so. They're not having to like swing by and get the person's favorite bottle of wine if they don't have time for it, that they have tools outside of their own creativity where they can just make it happen. There's some other ways that this structure can help managers. For a lot of us, we may feel like, gosh, can't they just do it? If you're in a position to be designing recognition, you're probably really natural at it. It feels like something that should be easy for people to do. But with this structure, with the formality, you get that consistency that so many of you are looking for. It empowers that grassroots recognition. If it's a structured program that everyone can participate in, it gives managers things to look at. So peer-to-peer recognition in a structured form, our system will alert the manager when someone on their team has been recognized. So now they don't need to actually type up the story. They just get to comment on it and say, wow, this is amazing. I didn't even know you did this. So they're being served up examples, and then they get to really put their stamp on it. It gives leaders tools and education and permission to get on with it, right? They don't have to worry that they're doing it the right way or how to do it. You're giving them the tools. It also can hold managers accountable. If recognition is informal, we just have to trust it's happening. If it's been formalized and reporting is available and insights are available for folks, you can see which of my managers is embracing this opportunity and which isn't. And how do I coach them so that we get that consistency? Once you say you have the tool and you have the numbers, then it's so much easier to go to them and say, what's going on? You're not using it. Are people not doing great work? How, do you need some support in how to use it? It also promotes regular communication, tips, tricks to reinforce the importance. So if you have a formalized program, managers are more likely to be able to learn from each other because they're all doing the same thing. And as I said before, it'll show you who's doing it, who's embracing it, and who needs more help. So in your workbook, 3.6, manager-led recognition, you're going to see, do you have a budget? A lot of you do, which is really exciting. Be thinking about how are you using that budget, though? Is it traditionally been given to just senior leaders? and we want to push it down a couple levels so that frontline managers have that trust that they're allowed to give out some budget. Is everybody getting the same amount, even though some people have lots of employees and others have just a little bit? As a manager, am I allowed to give out rewards to people outside of my team so that I can give credit where credit's due to those that support us? So what budget is allocated? What level of manager can have access to it? Closer to the ground you can get, the better. But if you don't have a lot of budget, maybe it does need to sit with the senior leaders. What's the value? That also might have to do with how often it happens. What are you going to call the tiers? We have people that have, there's like a headliner, a legendary, a Bravo award. What are the names you might come up with? Then, how are you going to design them? What ideas will you have? What could you call them and what would they look like? So here's an example. This is an organization where they have manager rewards that are available. It's called their Headliner Award. You can see all of their values floating around in the background. So it's really those people that are exemplifying any of the values are eligible for this. They type in their message. They can see in the lower left how much budget they have, what's in their budget pot. They can click on that and see what's left for them. And then they can choose, is this a $5, $10, $15, $20, or $25 reward that I want to give? How much of my budget do I want to give out here? So they have some flexibility so that they can really honor above and beyond, but they can also think about, how much of their budget is this going to be? Is this a really nice buy you a cup of coffee kind of $5 thing? Or is this a $25, taking you out to lunch kind of an action? These are ours. Reward Gateway Awards. We have the UROCs, which are employee-led rewards. Each employee is able to give out 10 point-based awards. Now, the reason we do that versus cash, points convert to cash, but we have offices all over the globe. So we want to make sure that you get a point, and then points are just worth different things depending on which country you're in so that it's equitable. 40% of these, by the way, are sent to people we don't work with regularly. So when I send a UROC, 4 out of 10 of what people send is for people in different parts of the organization, different departments. So it's a really nice way to let someone you don't have as strong a relationship with know you really meant it. And then we have the Game Changer Awards. There's 2 levels of these. Our frontline managers have a limited number. They have a budget, depending on how many folks work in their team, that they can give out the 500 points, which is about $50. Senior leaders can decide whether they want to do a 50 point or 500 point or a 1,000 point reward. So, we have a limited budget as employees, but it's nice to put that stamp on recognition. Frontline managers have increased budget they can use, and then senior leaders, they can give out, $100 rewards if it's something really stands out. It's always fun to get them. So what this will look like, though. It's in the same feed, these rewards are to the e-cards, but we're not promoting the cash, right? So it doesn't say, you just won $15. Instead, it says you got a UROC. And there's a story. You'll know as an individual what it's worth, but other people, that's not the point. So you can see we've got the UROC, and then we've also got an example of a game changer here. It doesn't say how much the game changer was for, and that's fine. It's the story that we want to make visible, that we want to really highlight with people. Okay, so be thinking about what kind of budget do you have for awards? Hopefully some of those examples give you an idea of whether you want to use them. Maybe you want to pilot it with a certain group of senior leaders, and then you want to see if you can transition funding from other things. Have you not had a holiday party for a couple of years? Maybe you can use that to give yourself a little boost and some reward that you can use. Scheduled service recognition. So we get to our milestones. There's a place in the book, as before, on page 30, where you can figure out number of years, if it's financial or non-financial, and what the value would be. So maybe for someone's 1-year anniversary, you want to acknowledge it because we want to keep them loyal, but maybe it's not going to be a value. Maybe it's going to be an e-card that they get with a nice message from the organization. The opportunity of online is in our system when I have a 1 year anniversary, or actually just had my 15-year anniversary in October. My manager gets alerted. So if they want to do something custom themselves for it, they can. I got some lovely flowers. They were much appreciated. But so you can figure out, do you want it to be something that's public and we're getting alerts for it? Do you want to send out a particular value? What years do you want to celebrate? But more and more we're seeing, if your program started with 5, you're not using that very often, unfortunately, and we need to do it more like 1 year or 3 years. I even have some clients that at 3 months, it's like, it's official. You've been here for a while and you're not a rookie anymore. Something to acknowledge that. One of the things that we've also seen people focus on with these is maybe back in the olden days, right, which feels like 4 years ago was the olden days, but historically, you set this up as a very high maintenance, administrative heavy system that we don't have the time for that anymore. There's too many other things that are going on. So looking for ways to be cost effective and time effective with this program, maybe you need to shake things up so that people feel like it's a new reinvigorated program, but don't forget to think about you and your team. You want to alleviate the administrative burden. So that's one opportunity of going online, letting the system do it automatically. Mitigate against lost revenue. If you're giving out, this is true if you're giving out a reward that people don't care about. One of our clients, they were giving out these really expensive KitchenAid mixers that, because it was through their program, it was like $1,400. People were getting them even if they didn't cook or bake. So can you shake things up and make it more meaningful and maybe less just about the cash that's being spent, saving money on it, and then creating an engagement moment with a reward that's meaningful, either that customized by giving managers a heads up, or maybe it's just a really kind message that happens and actually happens on the day of that anniversary, not when the manager gets to it by the end of the month. Oh, a call out before we start thinking about finalizing your recognition pyramid. There is a third R. We're talking about reward and recognition. The third R is redemption. For a lot of people, maybe the recognition that you have set up is a really great system, but maybe it's what people redeem rewards for, redeem those service awards for, that's the lame part of the program, the piece that needs to be zhuzhed up a little bit. So these are some of the things that we provide to our employees at Reward Gateway, and our clients provide to their employees. Yeah, you've got the e-gift cards, those are great, but also company experiences or merch. Maybe you want to have, if you get to a certain level, you get lunch with the CEO, or maybe you've got the parking spot of the month, or maybe they just want a sweatshirt with a logo on it. Lots of people love the sweatshirts, but making sure that that's a part of what they can redeem their points or cash for. Charitable giving. We're allowed to go in, we partner with globalgiving.com, so people can go in and redeem their points or dollars for an organization that's close to their heart. And then Amazon. If we're looking for choice and flexibility with redemption, we have gone with a partnership with Amazon. So Eric, one of my colleagues, and I bonded over the fact this week that we both spent our reward points on vacuum cleaners during COVID, because who doesn't want a very clean floor when you're never leaving the house? So Amazon has done a lot to increase choice and flexibility, which is what so many people are looking for. So maybe it's less about the system you've got and more about what do people get out of it from a redemption perspective that you want to be looking at. Okay, so that was a lot to go through in a short period of time. But I wanted to now get a sense for, when you think about these levels, this is our third and final poll for today. When you think about these levels, which of these do you know you need to focus more on? So think these through. Which levels of recognition do you most need to improve? Is it that peer-to-peer? Maybe you've got it, but you want to amp it up. You want to make it fresh, fun. You want to think about the branding and the different things you're recognizing people for. Is the peer-to-peer nominations for going above and beyond? Do you need to elevate some great work above and beyond the day? Is it employee-led rewards? Are you considering that? Manager-led rewards Or do you know you need to freshen up and shake up your service or milestone awards? So let's see. I'm taking a look. We've got some votes coming in. We do have some clear leaders coming out, but I do want to give you one more minute to vote. You can vote for multiple. If you're sitting there because you can't decide, then you can in fact vote for multiple. But just keep in mind that might end up also being more work. Okay, so let's see where people fell out in regards to where they think they most need to improve. All right, the responses are, we went over the 60s, which is where we were just a moment ago. Up to 70% of you said manager-led rewards is really where you feel like you need the most improvement. Half of you peer-to-peer nominations, approximately half are looking for that peer-to-peer. Is this exactly the people who said they didn't have it? I think it was like 52% said they had it. The rest of you, 47% were convinced. That's the place you need to focus your time on. And it's really exciting to see 42% looking to explore employee-led rewards. It's a fun experience as an employee. It really demonstrates trust in employees if they get some budget. And service or milestone awards, about a quarter of you, which is actually a lot, even if it's not the main focus for this poll. Okay, so thank you. Hopefully you've been getting some good ideas, some information, and you're seeing what other people are thinking about putting their efforts towards. I wish we were all in a room so I could have you hold up those pyramids for us. If you need anything else, if you have any questions, do keep in mind there's going to be communications coming from Reward Gateway. I'm going to talk about rg.co/blog. We give a lot of examples in there of what clients have done, case studies. But in lieu of me being able to walk around and look at your papers, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap things up with some keeping the flame alive advice. During this fourth piece, if you have a question that's come out of this, please go to the questions panel and enter those questions in. You should see that there's a caret, little arrow. If you drop down in the questions, you can enter questions in if you have anything specific that you wanted to get to. Also, keep in mind communications after the webinar. There's going to be lots of different ways to get in touch with us if you need more examples or case studies that you'd be curious about. So here we go. I love this slide. I am a recognition geek, and I'm also way into usage of recognition. So I love this slide, the 5 A's to drive usage. First of all, there is awareness. You probably know this, right? Do they know that we have a program? Some of our clients really do a great job. We have an in-house design team that knocks it out of the park, but making sure that there's visibility, that people are talking about it in meetings, that you've got, this is where your branding really bring people in and make it seem fun. So these are some different ways that people have made sure awareness is there, whether it's with posters, whether it's with drawing people in with the use of our app. Our clients really do love to focus on the awareness piece. The next one is access. Can people get to it from their phone, especially if they're distributed now and they're not able to swing by the HR office and pick up a postcard? Can they get to it wherever they are? Also, if you are using online recognition, do they need to log in every time? Are they using single sign-on? A lot of our clients are really excited about our integration with MS Teams, so that if you're already living your life in MS Teams, you can recognize people through MS Teams. So think about how are people getting to it. Maybe you've got some great ideas in branding. People just aren't bumping into it as much as they need to be. The next one is activity. Is the activity in your system interesting to read? Are the nominations being written in a way that they're fun to read and people want to read them off and talk to people about them? So you may want to do a little bit of coaching. We have some resources out on our website and some blogs about how to write a recognition that other people want to read, including the value, including the impact the person had. So is the activity frequent enough and engaging enough and interesting enough? Is your CEO involved? Are your senior leaders involved so that people want to go out and read it? Advocates. From the very beginning, we said it shouldn't all be on your shoulders. So who are the people that you have as advocates that can support you with this? For example, one of our clients was saying that she knew her trickiest audience were going to be the people that worked remotely across the whole country. So she pulled in some supervisors from that department and said, I'm going to design this with you. And then I want your help. advocating amongst your teams with it, right? So figure out who are those people, influencers on the front lines, people in different parts of the organization that you want to bring along on that journey with you, whether it's from the polling perspective and the gathering of information perspective, all the way through to the launch. And then lastly, analytics. You're definitely going to want to make sure you've got access to some statistics, because no matter how flashy the launch is, right? You've got some fabulous material. It's really fun. Maybe you even get the chicken and the egg thing going in there, so it's a really fun launch. If you don't know how it's going, you're losing control. You don't know who to chat with to really boost things up. So here's some examples of the kind of insights that our clients find really valuable. This is our recognition moments flow chart. It shows you can tell our London office sends out a lot of recognition, followed closely by our Bulgaria office based on the width of those bars, and you can see where it's going. So as a leader here in our Rochester office, I can see we have less people here, but I can see that we're really recognizing across lots of different groups. We're recognizing London, we're recognizing Boston, we're recognizing Sydney. I want to see where are these recognitions going. And I know based on the size of the organizations where maybe the bar should be a little bit bigger than it is, and where to celebrate great work as it happens. The other type of insight you want to be keeping track of is, for example, this chart shows which of our e-cards are being used. And the joke I make is if your number one e-card is your happy birthday greeting, that's lovely that we're celebrating birthdays, but we also want to be celebrating our values. We want to be celebrating, we push the boundaries, we delight our customers, we love our job. So which of your cards are being used? That also might help you understand, are there 5 that don't really get a lot of action, and you should cut them off and introduce new ones, fun ones that people can go out and discover. We recently in the last year introduced our results-based e-cards, and for some people it's more satisfying to say things like you reduced expenses versus maybe for someone that wants to say, wow, you're doing a great job on the team. Okay, so I did reference rg.co, our blog. This is where you're going to go. Actually, I think it's rg.co blog. You're going to go out to our site, you're going to look and sign up for the blog, and then you're going to get lots of great answers after today. I do want to quickly see if there's a question that I can answer here. Let's see, I think I have time for one. Are there rewards related to employee developments or certificates? That is a great question. Yes, you don't want that to be the only reward that you have. So for example, if it's architecture or nursing and people are earning certificates, you are going to want to, you're not going to want to only reward people who get them, because they're probably doing great work leading up to that. But you absolutely can have a reward built into the system where if someone on your team receives a certification for something, receives an acknowledgement of something, right? They get their CPA exam, whatever that is, if you agree on how much that's going to be, you can send that off. It can be visible in the system. I love that, because then other people can comment on it and say, oh my gosh, it was so much work, congratulations. You can really trumpet those things. So it shouldn't be the only thing you reward, because you want to give people credit for the actions that lead to great work outside of that more academic pursuit, but that's a lovely one to make sure people get a chance to recognize. Okay, so had time for that one. Feel free to connect out on LinkedIn. If you have any further questions that come in the moments as we're closing things off, we will reach back out to you, but pay special attention to the information our team is sending out after today, because while we can't be there in small groups chatting with you as a form of a workshop, we want to provide you lots of opportunities to connect with us so that we can answer your questions and make the world a better place to work in how you design your recognition system. So thanks so much, everybody. Oh, and as you leave today's webinar, there will be a survey. We'd love your feedback on how valuable you found this to be, so that we can take that feedback and grow moving forward. Thanks so much, everybody. I hope you go out and recognize someone in the coming days because of this, and I hope you get recognized yourself. Build the kind of program you want to use, and build the kind of program that other people will use in recognizing you. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.